Messi. Messi. Oh my goodness. Balotelli. Aguero. That is extraordinary. What a head, son. What a head. Back of the net.
Hello, and happy Wednesday. The Not a Pundit podcast is back. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Newcastle in fourth place. Football back in the telly that isn't international football, which is always a positive sign. And, you know, an interesting run into the end of the season, which I'm sure we'll dig into. I can't complain, long story short. How are you, Nate?
I'm still mad at myself for wasting 90 minutes of that crap on Sunday, but yeah, I'm doing well. How you getting?
I am great. Sunderland won 1-0, and this is the time of year where you just want to grind out results, and 6 games left. I think playoffs are pretty much guaranteed. Like, I can't complain. Yous all doubted us. Yous all doubted.
Well, to be fair, it was we're winning the league. We doubted that. Now, your playoff run.
At one stage, yous were doubting even the playoff run.
Yeah, fair.
Like, yous were, and we're proving yous it wrong. We're proving a lot of our own fans wrong as well, because Sunderland fans can be an old pessimistic bunch, but
the Northeast is having a glow up on all sides.
Yeah, we just need Middlesbrough to cop on and realise that they're not relevant to anything in the Northeast and just drop out of the playoffs. It'd be fine then. But, Nate, you touched on the United game. I didn't get to see it. Was it as bad as it seems on paper?
Oh, it was miserable. Like, it was the furthest thing away from a derby, let alone a Manchester derby that I've ever seen. Like, it was a really tough watch. Like, and that pains me to say as a United fan, but yeah, it was difficult.
More Derby 2007 than Manchester Derby.
Yeah, like, I think the big thing I took from it was, like, if this is where, you know, fair enough, the two clubs are struggling, but, like, a derby's a derby, and I think if that's where we are in 2025, that, you know, even a derby as big as that can get as stale as it was, I'm a bit worried about where we're currently at as a footballing community.
It wasn't even just the football, though. It was like, you know, I know the media have been banging on about the lack of, I suppose, fight in between the teams. And look, I think the days of, you know, Roy Keane or Gary Neville looking straight down the tunnel, not looking left or right, are gone. But, like, it really felt like a Sunday league kickabout with a team you play frequently and you work with half of them. Like, it didn't, there was no bite to it, you know?
I felt like every player on that pitch could have been transferred to the other club and they won't give a crap. Like, genuinely, that's
Yeah.
how I felt.
Like, do you think, does it kind of go down to having a lack of youth players from the area, that there's kind of not that kind of pride in the match, or is it just kind of the way football's going, where it's kind of like it's an international game now, there's no such thing as a local rivalry?
Listen, I think it's been tough because both clubs have struggled a lot this season. Like, you know, from where Man City have been to where they are now. Like, I know they're still quite high in the Premier League, but, you know, it's not the excellence that they've been used to for however many years. And, you know, United have been battling relegation at times this season, so that tells you everything. But I must say, like, the actual product, you can tell people are getting bored of this season.
As in the Premier League or what?
I think in general across the Premier League, I think it's become a very drawn out long season. And I think we're starting to see that spilling into the stadiums a bit now.
I think, if anything, though, man, like when both teams have been so poor all year, you think this would be the day that you just throw the kitchen sink at it, show everything that you stand for as a club, everything you stand for as a player, and to be honest, in some regard, for some of those players, put yourself in the shop window. You know, like that's, I know it sounds insane when you play for clubs like Man United and Man City, absolute like top 5 most followed teams in the world, but there is an element of players there want to move. And, you know, if you're in a team that's stale like City is at the moment, yeah, look, a lot of these players are still desirable to most clubs in the world, but there's some who aren't so much, you know.
I think part of it is kind of like the league has kind of been a foregone conclusion for a little while now. Like, there's not a massive amount other than pride, and when you're earning $250,000 a week, like, your pride has been bought.
Well, it's
But-
a little bit like the MLS, like we were talking about. Where when there's no
Yeah, when I-
relegation, because
yeah.
the relegation's fixed and the league seems to be won, it's kind of like, okay, let's just play it out.
Listen,
Well,
I'm just going to come out and say it, like, in terms of like a lot of the fan base, like, now, don't get me wrong, Nottingham Forest fans will be on cloud nine this season, and rightly so, fair play to them. But I think as a general consensus over the Premier League season, I think a lot of the fan bases are fed up with just the mediocre football that's being played. Like, I genuinely think this has been one of the worst seasons for Premier League football that we've seen. We've had barely any exciting, quote unquote, exciting moments. I think like the yo-yo-ness of form from the whole league is just bizarre. Like, I really don't get where it's coming from. And I think we're seeing the snowball effect to it now. And I think it's going to be an interesting summer where a lot of teams are going to be like, yeah, we're pouring a lot of money in, but we're not seeing the product.
I think you're right, because whatever about yo-yo, the championship is an exciting league for that reason, because anyone can beat anyone, and when you look at that league table, the top 5 are ties the Ducks arse, and the bottom 8 are too. Like that's fine for me, but like you said there, what the championship has at the moment is excitement, and that's what's lacking in the Premier League. And it you're completely right. Like like it's been great to see the likes of Forest having an amazing season, or Villa figuring it out. But like, it just, I think the last like 2 or 3 seasons has just been really meh.
I'm really glad you mentioned the 2 years Forest, because I think they prove something. Big fuckers are back. Big fuckers make you happy. If you have a big gangly man up top, that
You got
is
a
not,
chance.
not just that. It's like, that's not some genetic freak a la Haaland. That is just like, he could be a bricky, and I would love that for him. And him scoring lots of goals and not looking like he should be scoring lots of goals, and will never score lots of goals again. There's just something beautiful about it, and I think it's so nice to have that back. Like, it's sad that that's a novelty, but yeah, I think the United would be rewarded for getting gangly fuckers back. Don't go for the continental ones. Like, Weghorst didn't work. He doesn't play like a big man. You need gangly fuckers. You need bouncers. You need just somebody that shouldn't be playing football. And I think the Premier League will get good again. Like, Premier League was great when Ricky Lambert was playing. That man is insane.
Well,
Now.
I think you're completely right with this, but I do have to bring this up, and I hate to publicly shame you. I sent a video of 2006 finest strikers to you recently and said that this was the time to be alive, and you are not in agreement with that, my man.
No, there is absolutely rose tinted glasses, but like, Ricky Lambert was also like, he was at Liverpool in 2013, 2014, so still a
Can't
couple of
even
years
remember
after.
what year that was. Yeah,
But like, I think the quality of football is probably better now. Technically, it's like, when musicians get like really into it, and you get like bands like Tool, that's like they're playing in crazy like timings, and it's like not just 4/4, it's like 12/8 and
yeah, they're going.
4/6.
They're getting
I'm-
technical with it. Like,
Yeah. You just don't get it. I think football's nearly gotten to that point of kind of going, it is for stats and nerds. And I do think that there is a space for just
Anarchy.
football.
Anarchy.
Alagici football.
Listen, I'm probably gonna offend every coach out there, bar Big Sam, but I'm just gonna say it. It doesn't feel like we're playing football nowadays. Like, it feels like we're playing a game of chess, and that's where I'm finding that disconnect. It's like, how do we play the perfect game? Where in reality, like, what we're seeing from Forest is it's a team that concedes goals, but they're there to play football. They're there to score goals. And listen, you guys might jump down my throat here, but I think the big thing is, I think a big thing is like the top six struggling. Like, when was the last time where we could sit down every Sunday and watch a huge game and go, these are two huge teams going at each other? Like, where back in the day, that used to be every Sunday. Every Sunday you could sit down and watch a huge, Super Sunday game. It doesn't feel like that anymore.
Well, I can't remember more than 2 or 3 games this year that I was genuinely excited about. And to be honest, those games that I was excited about, I just happened to be games that turned into something. They weren't the ones that were billed as the kind of sexy Super Sunday games. They were just, I suppose, good football games. And like I really do think, like, I hate saying Pep has ruined football. I don't believe that. But, the Pep ball of Barcelona time, that was an exciting type of football compared to the style of football that his teams are playing now. It's like, I think you are onto something there with your reference to Tool, like, where they're being too technical, because, like, I'm not trying to bring us back to, Jack Charlton just kick it long football, but there is something a bit more exciting about that because it's more accessible, because it was just, every team had like 2 or 3 good lads and then some absolute donkeys and then everything in between. Well, now they're all such absolute freak athletes with such technical ability. It's like they're getting in their own way. It's like they've forgotten what football was like when you played it in the garden or on the street.
Like Gary Taylor Fletcher would never play in this Premier League era, and I think that's a shame.
There's so many players that wouldn't get a look in now.
But to be honest, I think you are touching on the one real problem without actually addressing what it actually is. And I think what it is that the Premier League is becoming monochromatic in how people are playing. That all the styles are starting to get very, very similar. Whereas before, you're saying, Nate, about like the big games, that'd be the time where you'd have 2 teams playing similar styles, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, proper challenge against each other. But next week you'll have maybe United playing reasonably passing football, and it could be against an Allardyce team, or it could be against Blackpool that's just like route one, do whatever it takes to not like absolutely lose our shirt here. And I think that's where element of boredom is coming in, because like when even the bad teams are playing the really technical football and the good teams are playing it, and the differences are coming down to how much you can spend rather than exploiting true differences, and kind of like players like Richard Dunn in this era just wouldn't even get
a game, even though he's unbelievable.
But the thing is, having that kind of a defender in 2006 was like, okay, he will win you like 33% of your games, because when we're coming against them Route 1 teams, absolutely he's going to be the man to clear it. And I think it's the diversity.
I think it's there's a systemic issue with it though as well, that we've talked about this before, that managers are scared for their lives to have their own style of football because you could get sacked after 8 games. Like I there's also playing to the crowd a little bit in the fact that if you're not a team that passes out from the back, what are you doing? Then the managers that go against that and actually try to create something or even play back to the football of yesteryear, if it doesn't work for 5 games in a row, well, best of luck. See you in the next club, because you're getting the sack.
Fans are part of that problem too, as
100%.
Well. Like, look at Allardyce at Everton, look at Allardyce at West Ham. Like, fans started to turn on him because it was like, oh yeah, we're winning, but we should be winning nicer.
But if you're not playing Pep ball, you're a dinosaur. To 70% of football fans out there under the age of, I'd say, about 35. It's like, and it's hard for like. There's 2 football. This sounds insane what I'm about to say. There was always high stakes in football. It's not like that's changed, but there's so little room for error in the league now that I don't even fault both players and managers for playing it safe.
Yeah, like I think we're generally heading for a bit of a dangerous period for football in terms of the product isn't getting better. It's actually getting worse. And I think we could be heading for a period where people start to panic when the viewership drops off, and it starts to become stale, because to me that's what it is becoming a bit. And I think, it's interesting seeing, like, and I'm not trying to merge the two, but when you see stuff like the Kings League, you see stuff like the Ballers League, where they're adding in like spicy stuff to football to try and make it a better viewing experience, is like, I'm a bit worried when we get to the point where people are trying to think of new ideas for 11-a-side football, what they're going to come up with,
Well, you're right, because let's face it, like the core rules of football aren't going to change to what the Ballers League is or anything like that. But sponsors follow where the eyes are, and the eyes are on TikTok right now. The eyes are on social media, and what are those fans watching? It's those kind of tournaments, And if the sponsors go away, then it's a whole different conversation that we're having.
Just to go back to what you were saying before, though, Connor, about players putting themselves in the shop window. One player that is really doing that, Nate, is Anthony, with apparently Atletico Madrid looking at buying him.
Yeah, 75 million. Like, Jesus, miracles can
Take
happen.
the money. Take the money. I repeat, take the money.
If you move that decimal point to a 7.5 million, you would still take it.
If you needed glasses and you're watching La Liga this season, you probably think Messi's playing. He's I don't know what's happened, but he's been a revelation for Real Betis this season so far, and it's to the point where their manager, director's coming out going, "We need to try everything to keep this guy here." Like,
do you think it's a flash in the pan? Do you think it's him having his Michael Jordan moment, or like is in his last dance kind of fuck the world mentality, or do you think that's just the player that Man United thought he was?
I'm unsure, but I think it all comes. I think it's a bit of everything in terms of, like, he didn't get much game time at United. Like, he's a player that has some talent, like, obviously, or he wouldn't have got the move. I think the big thing is, like, what was his ceiling, and if we're seeing a bit of a glimpse of it now, that's good. Do we think it can be replicated back into the Premier League when he's playing for Man United? I don't know. And I think that's what I'm a bit worried about now, is it's going to fall down to United to make that decision if clubs come calling for him,
Well, when you look around the team, like, and I don't want to jump off this Anthony piece too quick, but Rashford's performing well at Villa. Sancho's doing better than he was at United at Chelsea. Like, at what point? Not much, but you know what I mean. Like, he's at least performing somewhat, to the point where Chelsea are considering potentially keeping him or sending him back, which, for the content, I hope they send him back. But at what point do you start to kind of think, is it the club, or is it just coincidence?
Too many coincidences.
Yeah, like, I don't think it's a club personally, because I think he was a player that was bought overpriced by a manager that clearly loved him as a player, and he still couldn't get game time. I think a lot of that comes down to him. I also think some play styles currently and players just don't suit the Premier League, and I think Sancho falls into that category. I think players that don't have, that natural pace and are more of a dribbly type player, I think it's probably harder to make them work currently in the Premier League. So, personally, I'd probably be looking at getting rid of both of them and bringing in a bit of pace. But I don't get paid the big bucks to make them decisions.
I think you're right. Like, I mean, look, historically, the La Liga's been a league where it's less physical. You get more time in the ball. It is a dribbler's market. Players. There's certain players to suit certain styles, and again, going back to Man United, if you guys are gonna keep Amorim's formation going forward, there's going to be players that don't fit that system, and you need to figure out who they are very swiftly and move them on and bring in people who can play to that system. I mean, it's a huge gamble doing that, because it's short-term thinking, in my opinion, based off how long managers stay at a club. You're kind of changing your entire club to fit a manager that probably won't be there in 7 years' time. But I am happy for Anthony. Like, I mean, I think us as a podcast threw so much shade at him, along with most football fans out there. So, like, look, it's great for him. I'm really, really curious. like I don't know if Bettis can afford 75 million. Like, where are they getting that? So if he doesn't go there, he's not staying at United. Where does he go? And then if he go, like, is it a case of, say he ends up somewhere in Italy? Is it just back to what happened at United, or can he make it work there? I think his next move, whether he stays at Betis, can he continue the form? If he doesn't stay at Betis, what happens?
Yeah, I think that's life's great mystery getting into the transfer window. I'd like to see him move, and not only because I'd like some money back on his transfer, but listen, if it's not working for a player that's at a club and they move leagues and it starts working for them, you know, go to where it makes more sense for you to play. You know.
Fans seem to be buying in on him as well. I mean, he went for the full Graham Souness vibes in the derby, throwing the flag into the ground. So I'm always there for a bit of pettiness and a bit of shithousery.
In fairness, lads, I think he'll end up at somewhere like Atletico, and you'll have Simeone turn him into like an absolute
machine.
world beater.
Yeah.
And like, I know what you were saying about the La Liga. Kind of, it's a different way of playing. It is, you do have more time. It's not as physical, but like, some would take that as kind of admonishing the league, kind of going, well, you're not probably not as good because like.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's a bad league by any means. Like,
well, see, this is the thing is like, and I've heard it being said before. Oh well, if the likes of an Antony can go to La Liga and become a world beater, well then what does that say for the league? But it's like, yeah, what does it say when Real Madrid win 3 Champions leagues in a row, like,
or Spain win World Cup Euros, or Euros World Cup Euros, was it?
Yeah, that way. So like it's one of them kind of like. Do you think, as a league, the likes of La Liga is underrated by Premier League fans? Like, where would you rank it in kind of like top 5?
Like, it's hard because, again, we're into like, it's not kind of rose tinted glasses appeal to this. Like, if we're putting, say, Premier League Prime, Serie A Prime, La Liga Prime, that's one conversation. But if we're going off today's football, standings. Like, as much as I think the product in the Premier League has gone down tremendously, I think you'd still put that up top. I don't know about you. Let's maybe go layer by layer on this one. I would say Prem probably remains still at the top.
Should we each give her a top 5?
Well, this is the funny thing, that what even is the top 5?
Well, that's we can give her top 5s and see if we differ on them.
Who he is putting in 1?
I'm going Prem. Reluctantly, but Prem,
but not by much. Yeah. 2.
It's between Spain and Italy.
I'm going Italy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like 60-40 on the Italy train.
I would be putting Bundesliga or Spain.
I think Italy have overperformed in Europe recently.
Yeah. And I think there's also been a lack of, like, wearing Bayern winning the league, what was it, 9 in a row, 10 in a row, something like that. Like, it got very SPL vibes about it. So, like, I think there's more
Premier Leagues did City win?
Well, we'll come back to that. But like, I think there's more spice from as a fair weather fan of that league, of Serie A. Like, you could watch most games and they're exciting and anyone could beat anyone for the most part. Well, I don't feel that there's that currently in Spain.
Okay. So you're putting these.
What do you say? I'm going Italy. Nate, you going Italy?
I'm going Italy.
I'm gonna say Spain, and then for 3, I'm saying Bundesliga.
Jesus, you're going high in Bundesliga.
I'm saying Spain.
Yeah, I'm going Spain.
And then Italy for me is 4.
Bundesliga
Germany 4.
Yeah.
France
now, 5.
Oh, I don't know. I'd be putting Netherlands in there.
It's a toss-up between Netherlands and Portugal. I think the drop-off in France in the last couple of years has been pretty remarkable.
And I think the TV rights for that in its own tell you that story, you know?
Yeah, like, other than PSG, there is, like, every other team has completely dropped off the face of the earth. Lyon, Marseille,
Rennes,
Bordeaux, almost
Nantes.
literally. Yeah, like
I still
it's.
think the quality though in the league's better than Netherlands and
Well, I'll put it this way, right? If I was like, lads,
Portugal.
I've tickets to an unknown team in Portugal, Netherlands, or France. We're going tomorrow. What league do you want to go to without knowing the team?
Yeah, but that's not how I'm basing
I'd
it.
be
I'm
Portugal.
I'm basing it off like the 20 teams in League On. I think as a collective are better than the 20 teams in the Portuguese league.
I don't know. I think there's more
I do like
competitiveness
you've got your
in.
Rio Aves and Port, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the drop off in Portugal is a lot heavier after the top 4 teams.
No, but that's what I'm
And
saying with France, though, is the drop off has now gotten so heavy after PSG. Like, Lyon is not Lyon of even 4 years ago. Marseille is not the Marseille that we would remember. Like,
I still think the teams are a bit better in France, though.
I think
Like,
their reputation is, but I don't think the playing is.
I don't know if there's much in it between the three leagues. You know, like
Like-
I think you could easily fight a case for all three.
Do you want
Like,
the official
lads-
UEFA rankings?
lads, I'll just let me say this real quickly. Like, after the top 5 in Portugal, I'd literally struggle to name you a club.
What about Boa Vista?
But you know what I mean? Like, you've got your Estrella, like that's a pint of beer there. Like, Gil Vicente, like AVS, Firenze, like I just don't know these things. Where with
Victoria.
League On, I could name you.
These are definitely Killian's Football Manager nemesises from previous saves. I can guarantee it.
A lot of them actually came from one player that used to play for Sunderland called Mika.
Oh, I remember him.
Bought him for like £1 million and he never played, and we ended up releasing him after a year and a half. And he just he went back to Portugal and actually had a decent career. But it was just like,
does that not say what we're saying?
No. This was Sunderland under Moyes, so we do not judge. This is an era of Julian Lescott and Stephen Pienaar. This was not a good times. Okay, but the official UEFA rankings is England number 1, Italy 2, Spain 3, Germany 4, France 5.
So, well, I mean, I understand. Like I said, there's not much in it for that 5th one. It's not exactly
literally the points rounding, up and down is like England on 110, Italy on 95, Spain on 92, Germany on 86, France on 71, and then Netherlands 67, and Portugal 62. So they're all reasonably like England's way out, Italy, Spain, Germany fairly damn close, but then France, Netherlands, Portugal all pretty damn close. So like,
I would love to see though. I'd love to make a comparison of that, what those coefficients are, and what is it UEFA that list was.
Yeah,
I'd love to see what is the sponsorship in those leagues. Like, does it match up? Because let's face it, UEFA are looking to keep the sponsorship where it is and increase it and not rock the boat. So I would suggest that the sponsorship would be pretty even going through. I'd say it would match team for team.
Like, what I also find interesting is, so it's France 5, Netherlands 6, Portugal 7, Belgium 8, Czech Republic 9, Turkey 10.
Turkey 10?
Yeah, and then Greece, Norway, Austria, Scotland, Poland. Like, Switzerland is 17.
What number is Scotland?
14.
That's a bit rough.
Serbia is 22. That seems low.
I couldn't name you a single Serbian team.
Red Star Belgrade.
Oh yeah, fair. The team, yeah.
But then like Croatia is 20. Like Dynamo, where Kovacic and all came from. Like,
yeah, but they're one club countries. You know,
it's below Cyprus.
You see,
It's below Cyprus.
Coefficients in football have annoyed me for years. It's the same in
Like,
rugby
Azerbaijan
where
is ahead of Ireland.
but does this take into just the domestic leagues, or does it take in their international team where if you play 10 games against Gibraltar, you can
No,
go
it's
higher in the world rankings,
club,
you know?
coefficients,
Okay.
which is just absolutely insane. Like it's Austria makes sense. Norway is at 12.
Norway has some. They've had some
Yeah,
players come out of there. You know.
and not just that, they've had a couple of like the Europa runs
Yeah,
and stuff.
you kind of
Like
forget, like in
Rosenborg is one of their big teams. Denmark 16, which seems about right. Switzerland 17, about right. Israel is 18, slightly surprising. Ukraine is 23, which feels low, but obviously
with what's going
quite
on.
yeah, so that kind of makes more sense. Yeah, it's weird. Like Malta is ahead of Northern Ireland.
Well, I don't know too much about. Is it the Maltese League?
Yeah,
Am I right with that? Yeah, I
Faroe
don't.
Islands is ahead of the two of them.
I mean, we're in the weeds now, boys.
Yeah. But before we completely move on from the United City game, Connor De Bruyne has announced his intention to leave.
I don't think it's a massive surprise. I think it's been a fairly, talked about element. He dropped some breadcrumbs, or more so a loaf of bread, not too long ago about going to Saudi. Obviously, I was only talking about this to someone the other day. It's a shame he's leaving now. In like, don't get me wrong, he's still an unbelievable player. He was a complete servant to Man City. He's been there the guts of a decade, and at one point he was arguably the best midfielder in the world, definitely Europe. Where he is now, the football is definitely starting to leave him a little bit. Not to sound like Jamie Carragher, but it's time for him to move on. I just wish when he left, it was at a bit more of a dizzying height than it is. It's a bit more of a lull now, you know?
Yeah, I think physically, the league kind of is escaping him now. To be able to perform at the level that you'd expect for him, he's kind of lost that bit of pace. He's maybe lost that kind of a split second of a decision. Maybe it's a slight kind of like when you hear parents say that, "Oh, I used to be a really good driver, or I used to be really good at roller coasters until I had my kids," and I think now that he's had the injury problems, that he's just that little bit slightly too cautious than the Premier League allows. So where do you reckon he's going to go? Because Inter Miami apparently have his discovery rights for the MLS, and I'd love to see that happen.
I'd be a big fan of that as well. I really hope he doesn't go to Saudi, because I think if he does, that'll entice more players to flow that way. I think
The
for
benefit
him,
of nobody,
yeah,
including the viewers.
because I don't know about you, even on my social feeds, I see MLS clips multiple times a day. The only Saudi clips I'm seeing is Duran and Ronaldo, and that's about it.
Or in a negative context.
Yeah. So,
Taking
and leaving the politics out of it, just from a sheer footballing standpoint, like,
Yeah.
I think, yes, when we say that the football's leaving him, I just mean that in regards to the Premier League is the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. It's not like he is a crap footballer now. It's just at that level, it's a bit above where he is.
I think it's more like with the injury problems and losing that little element of pace or whatever, that the Premier League is punishing him, whereas he still has something to give.
100%.
It's just Premier League doesn't allow that, which is
I
why
would like that
other
MLS
rogue
move.
suggestion is that if he's not going to go to the MLS, he should go to Inter Milan.
Jesus, that's out of left field.
I think kind of like when Ericsson went there, I think he'd be given a little bit of time. I think he'd be able to drop a little bit deeper and play a little bit more of a playmaker role without having to have the physicality of running around, but also in a league that'll kind of give him the expanse enough to be able to
I think
that.
it hinges on where he is mentally, and I don't mean that from like he's having issues there. I mean, it's a case of,
Does he
Does
want to
he-
still prove himself at the top, or
Does he want
happy
to? Does he want to go? I'm not done yet, and prove it, or does he want to go? You know what? I have worked. I've played an unholy amount of games over the last 10 years. I just want to enjoy what the years I've left in a footballing context. Go rip it up with Messi. Pretty sure Miami's tax free. Let's
Well,
face it.
there is an issue with Inter Miami though. Is
Designated
they are-
players.
Yeah, they already have the three. It's Messi, Busquets, and I think Jordi Alba.
I mean, I'm sure they could restructure a contract where an Adidas or Apple foot the bill outside of the designated player through a sign-on bonus.
I don't know if they can, but
You know
That's
the way they
not-
do it in the NFL, where it's like your sign-ons 80 million, but your season's earnings are like 4.
I'm not sure if you can do that. I'm just not 100% if you can. But even saying that, like, it'd be one of them kind of things that there's other creative accounting you can do. Get one of them onto the normal salary thing, and then make a deal with the likes of Apple, kind of going, yeah, you're going to do an ad campaign with Busquets in it,
And you're
he's
going to
gonna
give
be
him
into it.
50 million quid. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Oh.
he personally, I think he will lean more towards that from a family perspective. I think the what players like about the MLS is, don't get me wrong, there's a massive media attention on it now compared to what it was 10 years ago. But compared to the Premier League, it's about 10%. Somewhere like Miami is a massive place where he can kind of live a normal-ish life and be out of the spotlight in the way that he's not used to.
But it also gives him an opportunity to become more of a mainstream celebrity over there.
Does
if
he
wants.
want it? I don't know.
It gives him the option of kind of going,
Yeah.
well, if I want to go down that route, I can. But the other thing it's bringing up, and apparently City have confirmed it, Nate, is that he's going to get a statue. Does he deserve a statue, or is it this just Plastic City getting like some Nubia?
I mean, like, for a club with not, the most rich history, I'd say he's
This is a club with
probably-
Diego Perotti. There's a statue of Diego Perotti. Do you remember Diego Perotti?
I do not.
So there's a statue in Manchester of the only 3 Manchester-born men to win the World Cup, and one of them is Diego Perotti. He used to play for Roma, and he was on loan at City, but he was born in Manchester,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
and he was there for like 2 years. But they have a statue of him.
Is that for real?
That's for real.
Oh my God. I don't know about you, Nate. I know you're kind of on the fence and you probably have your red lenses on, but I do think, 10 years, how many Premier Leagues, he's won everything there. That's as big a player as they've ever had, outside your Vinny companies from a leadership perspective. I think from a talent perspective, outside Sergio Aguero, I'd say he's the most talented footballer that's gone through the gates there in the last 10 years.
I think give it a few years, like, first. I'd say, like, let the nostalgia try and kick in a bit, like,
They know he just won't come back.
yeah, you won't get the availance unless they don't.
Once
know,
those
like-
charges hit, they won't have enough money to make a statue.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like statues with City will always be a funny thing.
Let's face it, whether he wants the statue now or in 5 years, it's going to look crap like every other statue that happens to be made. What's your thinking on it, Killian?
Like they already have given one to like company and stuff, so off with them. It's kind of telling that we're kind of giving statues to lads that are like at the club. It wouldn't be my first choice, but it does kind of give an interesting kind of dilemma. Is there any player at your club that you would give a statue to now?
Like currently, at the
Currently
club?
playing,
Or-
like
Yeah, like De Bruyne's situation.
Like if I had to pick one, like
if
Yeah.
he's going to say Bruno, I know he is. It's Bruno, isn't it?
To be honest, I don't think
Oh.
you could afford the actual bronze needed to make like one for Casemiro.
Be a tinfoil statue, yeah.
I think it'd have to be Bruno.
Ugh.
I mean,
at least Rashford, you can put the charity angle onto it.
Nah, I'd probably still pick Bruno.
I wouldn't. I'm just gonna say that now. But if I had to pick someone, it's Big Dan Burn for obvious reasons, and he will be dining out in that goal for the rest of his life, let alone career. But
No love for Callum Winslow or
um,
Bruno Guimaraes. What
nah.
about Trippier being the first one to join the project?
Don't get me started on that again. Anyone up your rotten side of the northeast? If you say Jack Clark, I'm hanging up.
He's not there anymore. He's
I know.
playing no games at Ipswich. Luke O'Nien, like he joined us when we were in League One as an attacking midfielder from Wickham. Had the worst debut. Thought that was his career ruined. Injuries came. He started playing right back, and now he is a starting centre back in a championship promotion playoff run in, and he's captaining the club now. 300 games in the league for Sunderland. Like it's a great turnaround. So him or
That's not a bad one. Like I don't like statues like out in a football context. I think they're given to far too many people, or at least offered to far too many people. But like I understand that one. But like what
Another
statues do you
one-
guys currently have? Because like the ones I think of outside Newcastle are Bobby Robson, Alan Shearer. That makes sense.
Easy to get trophies at Sunderland these days, is it?
well, we have like Bob Stokey and stuff who like won the FA Cup in 1972 as the manager when we were a second division side against Leeds.
Like the
so,
statues that I'm fine with. I don't know about you boys, but like the Henri one makes sense. You know, the Dennis Law Charlton one out the front of United, cool.
Holy Trinity.
Yeah, that like I get those kind of ones, but like I just they it's like the way people use the word legend too frequently. Like
flippantly, yeah.
it's
I think getting a stand named after you is more classy than a statue.
But see, that is one of those ones that you cannot rename a stand. You like that has to be like whatever a statue can go missing or be replaced, but a stand that is bigger.
Connor, what about your Alan Shearer one that Mike Ashley wouldn't allow at Newcastle? Are you happy about that? Like I know he's like a local. Yeah, like I know it's like a local legend, but like...
Well, I mean, when you look at that, like not even just because he's Alan Shearer, and, you know, we all know I love him very dearly, but like he's also the record goal scorer in the league. Like he achieved something that's still standing, you know.
But most of his name is based on achievements.
Blackburn.
Yeah, that aren't at Newcastle.
Yeah.
So like in terms of Newcastle career, it's like that's a local statue. You know,
yeah,
it has national prominence, but it's more of a team statue.
He is he is our greatest ambassador, like outside Bobby Robson. Like that is if you know Bobby Robson, like Bobby Robson's statue is the one. If we were only allowed one, that's the one I'd keep. You know, but that's not to say I don't want the Shearer one. But like I don't want this.
Is there any other ones that you feel that the club is missing out on? Like. All time, like is there one that you're kind of like, oh, you probably should have one of him?
I don't know. Like I'm not big on them because like at what point do you stop? Like I don't want it to be 10 statues strewn around a stadium. Like you know, like one or two and leave it at that. Put a bus somewhere if you really must. You know.
Yeah, but like just anything like that. It doesn't mean like, is there anyone that you think deserves more of a memorialization around?
The one that comes to mind for me is Gary Speed.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
You know, just from a human perspective.
He played a lot of games for you as well, didn't he?
He did. Like he was a hero of the tune, and you know, I think that'd be nice, and I think I wouldn't go full statue, just you know, like when they kind of put a bust on a wall kind of situation,
or a big mural or something.
Yeah, something like that. I'd be down for that.
Nate, I know he already has a stand, but is Fergie the obvious answer?
He has a statue, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has one at the front of the Concorde.
Oh.
But to be honest,
Keno?
Yeah,
the club wouldn't allow that.
I think the thing with United is like I feel like United do this type of stuff really well. Like I feel like we don't have too much going on, but we hit the right note in terms of like, you know, you've got Busby stand, you've got you've got Sir Alex has a stand and a statue, you've got the Holy Trinity, you've got the Munich tunnel. Like I think we hit it right. in terms of what I'd add, maybe like a class of '92.
I was gonna say class of '92 mural somewhere, not statue because that'd just be mental. But I'd say mural somewhere.
You should get one of the the boxing mannequins for a Ryan Giggs one, just so that people can fight back.
I think a Ronaldo one eventually will probably happen.
I was so curious if you'd mentioned
No.
that. That is wrong, man.
What you mean? We made him the player that he was.
I know, but like,
He won a
That's like-
Ballon d'Or at United. Like, do you know what I mean?
Boy, like no,
I'm not here
Rooney
for that.
A Rooney one.
Rooney, I could get behind. I could understand that. I think he should have a memorialization of Eric Cantona kicking the fan.
Like this is
Imagine
the
that for a
thing with
photo op,
United is
just-
like, we could have a million bleeding statues outside. I think it's just picking the most. I think Cantona deserves one. I do. I
You
think,
could see a cool one, collar up, hands in the air. Yeah, I could see
It'd be
that.
cool.
I
Or
think,
like definitely a big mural.
I think what he done for the club when he joined is underrated. Like, I think it's still underrated to this day. Like, in terms of turning that period around.
One United one. There may be something for him, and forgive me, I can't remember his name. When the Munich disaster happened, and Busby was
Edwards.
in the hospital, who?
Was it Duncan Edwards you're going to say?
No, the manager who carried them through that period until Busby recovered.
Oh, yeah, the assistant manager, the
Yeah.
Scottish guy.
I cannot. David Tennant played him in
Tennant,
the movie. Him. I think that would be one.
I think he has a huge thing in the Munich tunnel.
All right.
Yeah.
Jimmy Murphy.
Jimmy Murphy. That is it. Yeah. Those kind of statues that's more impactful than just football.
I think what's it called? I think Duncan Edwards deserves one, in my opinion.
He has a statue, but I think that's like wherever he's from.
Yeah, I think like what he done in such a short life for United was like he was the belief at that time, and I think that saying that like the Busby Babes as a whole probably deserves. Well, they've got their tunnel, haven't they?
That's the thing, like,
yeah.
and it's
you don't want to go too overboard either. Like,
one thing that United do well is history. That museum is fantastic, and the likes of the Busby Memorial, like United do it well.
I think Newcastle are missing definitely one anyway of the fan punching the horse.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Like I think he's just missing and like ignoring part of our culture.
I mean, lest we forget.
Yeah, like I think there's a couple of them in Sunderland that would nice to see, like Kevin Phillips and Niall Quinn, especially for like what Niall Quinn did for the club as like an owner as well.
That's a strong one. But then at the same time, it's like, are we just giving statues to Sounders? You know what I mean? Like, I know he did great things for the club, and he kind of almost reinvigorated the club. But like, not to sound like Roy Keane, but that's your job.
Well, the thing with say like Kevin Phillips, he's still the only Englishman to win a European Golden Boot in the Premier League. So in the same way with like Shearer, it's like, well, nobody else can say that, so there should be something to kind of commemorate that. So I think something like that would be good. And one other thing I think clubs don't necessarily always do quite as well is like some kind of recognition to like their founders. So like Sunderland was founded by teachers, and I think something like that would be kind of a cool thing. I think United should actually have one of a St. Bernard, considering when they were in Newton Heath, there was a St. Bernard ran from the club into some like posh place, and from that chance meeting they got funding to keep the club going, and that owner rebranded the club into Manchester United and moved them into Old Trafford. So
that's
I think
kind of cool.
That. Like there should be ones that have stories, I think.
See, I think it's a case of, it's so far back, so most people don't know those stories, the origin stories.
I think with United's new stadium, we'll see a flurry of new statues, I think.
Actually, how's that going to work with the Busby Memorial?
What do you mean?
As in, are they going to leave that in its existing spot? Or are they going to move
Munich
it?
tunnel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll leave it where it is.
And the clock and the whole thing, like.
Yeah, I think like that is Old Trafford. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Or they're incorporated, kind of like what Wembley did with some of their old bits,
Mm.
kind of bring it into the new stadium. But I think we're going to wrap there, lads, because there's one statue that will never be beaten, and obviously that's Michael Jackson at Fulham. So if we can't beat it, let's not even try. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I will chat to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Messi. Oh my goodness! Balotelli.